Good afternoon, dear students. Today we are going to discuss the preparation of pure sample of DNA. Especially today we are going to discuss preparation of pure sample of DNA with respect to genomic DNA of bacteria. See, while carrying out genetic engineering experiments, we require pure samples of DNA. Okay, when we are carrying out the experiment on certain plants, then we require plant DNA. If we are carrying out experiments on bacteria, then we require pure bacterial DNA. So we are going to discuss here how to obtain pure sample of DNA. In genetic engineering experiments, three different kinds of DNA may be needed, or more than that, purified DNA is needed. What is it? The total cell DNA to obtain genes which we want to clone. So sometimes we want total cell DNA, that is chromosomal or genomic DNA, from where we want to isolate the genes to be cloned. So we require pure genomic or chromosomal DNA. Sometimes we require plasmid DNA, which serves as a cloning vehicle, which serves as a vector. If we are using bacteriophage as a vector, then we require phage DNA. So let us discuss how to obtain pure sample of genomic DNA from a bacteria. So there are basic four steps when we are preparing or when we are isolating total cell DNA. Okay, so when we are isolating pure chromosomal or genomic DNA from a bacteria, there are main four stages. Number one, the bacterial culture is grown and harvested. So we have to grow the bacteria in a nutrient medium and harvest the bacterial cells. Number one. Number two, the cells are lysed. That means the cell wall, the cell membrane is broken to release the cellular contents, to take out the cytoplasmic content. Number three, the cell extract is treated to remove all the components except the DNA. Okay, so the first step is growing the bacterial culture and harvesting the cells. Number two, lysing the cells to take out the cellular components. Then the cell extract is treated, given chemical treatment in such a way that we retain only the DNA and remove all unwanted components. And then the resulting DNA is to be concentrated in the fourth step. So these are the basic four steps which are shown in this diagram. So a culture of bacteria is grown and the cells are harvested by centrifugation. Here you can see the pellet of cells. Okay, harvested by centrifugation. Then it is given chemical treatment to get a cell extract. Here you can see the cell harvest and lysis. So the pellet of the cells is treated with, the cells are removed, broken to get a cell extract. After that, we purify the DNA again by chemical method. The DNA is purified from the cellular extract and then the DNA is concentrated. So let us discuss each and every step one by one. First is growing the bacterial culture and harvesting the bacterial cells. Bacteria are grown in a liquid medium which provides all important you can say ingredients, essential nutrients. Okay, so grow the bacteria in a nutrient medium, okay, which provides a balanced mixture of essential nutrients for effective and efficient growth of bacteria. Here we can use two different medias. Number one, M9 medium and LB medium. Now, M9 medium is a chemically defined medium. M9 is a chemically defined medium in which all components are known. So what are all the ingredients that are present in M9 medium? Okay, disodium hydrogen phosphate, potassium dihydrogen phosphate, sodium chloride, ammonium chloride, magnesium sulfate, glucose and calcium chloride. But we use this M9 or chemically defined medium only when bacterial culture has to be grown under precisely controlled condition. When we want to grow the bacteria under precisely controlled condition, we use M9 medium. Otherwise, we use LB medium. Which medium we use? LB medium, Luria bertani medium. It's a complex medium, chemically undefined complex medium. What does it contain? Tryptone 10 grams per liter, yeast extract 5 grams per liter, and sodium chloride 10 grams per liter. This is the composition of chemically undefined LB medium. When do we use LB medium? When the culture is grown simply as a source of DNA. When we are growing the bacteria to isolate the DNA as a source of DNA, we do not need any defined medium. We just use a complex LB medium. Now, the LB medium is prepared. It is, you can say, sterilized, and then it is inoculated with the bacteria. After inoculation of the cells into the LB medium or into any medium, the medium is incubated at 37 degrees Celsius for sufficient time. Okay. Once you have inoculated the cells, the medium is incubated at 37 degrees Celsius for sufficient time. Usually, incubation is done on a shaking incubator. When you incubate on a shaking incubator or a rotating shaker, the medium is continuously aerated. Okay. For example, LB medium is inoculated with E. coli cells. It is incubated at 37 degrees Celsius on a rotary platform, shaking incubator, with 150 to 250 revolutions per minute. That is, it is aerated by shaking when you incubate on a rotatory platform. Now, E. coli cells, they divide once in 20 minutes. That means one cell gets multiplied into two cells in 20 minutes or so. Okay. So, you carry out the incubation till the cell mass reaches a maximum density of about 2 to 3 into 10 raised to 9 cells per ml. Okay. So, incubation is done for a period till the cell mass, the bacterial number, reaches 2 to 3 into 10 raised to 9 cells per ml. Now, how will you come to know whether the density or this much of cells have grown? The growth of the culture can be monitored by reading the optical density at 600 nanometer. So, you can read the optical density of the broth culture at 600 nanometer. Okay, at 600 nanometer, if the optical density is 1, it corresponds to 0.8 into 10 raised to 9 cells per ml. Okay, so if the optical density is 1, so optical density should be 2 or 3, minimum 3. Right? So, you get maximum density of bacterial cells. So, once you have grown the bacterial cells for a sufficient period of time and you are sure that the cell density is very high, then you need bacterial cells. Why do you need bacterial cells? Because DNA is present inside the bacterial cells. Okay. So, we need the bacteria. Okay. Now, to prepare the cellular extract, bacteria must be obtained in a small volume as possible. We require bacterial cell culture in a small volume. Now, bacteria are dispersed in the liquid nutrient medium and hence harvesting is done. We have to harvest the cells. How do we harvest the cells? By spinning, that is by carrying out centrifugation. So, you take the broth culture in a mini centrifuge tube and subject it to centrifugation. When you centrifuge at a very fairly low speed, the bacterial cells will pellet at the bottom of the centrifuge tube. That means when you centrifuge the broth culture, microbial cells or bacterial cells will settle down at the bottom of the tube in the form of a button, which we call as pellet, so that the supernatant culture medium can be poured off. Okay, so you spin the broth culture, the bacteria will settle down at the bottom to form a pellet, and the remaining supernatant broth, you can say, can be thrown or decanted, right? So, that is the first step, growing the bacterial cells and harvesting the culture. The second step is preparation of cell extract. Now, you all know that bacterial cell is enclosed in a cytoplasmic membrane. Okay, there is cytoplasm inside which bacterial DNA or chromosome is present. Now, the cytoplasm is protected by a cytoplasmic membrane. Okay, and outside the cytoplasmic membrane there is a rigid cell wall. In some species, cell wall is enveloped by a second outer membrane. So if you want to take out the DNA that is present inside the cytoplasm, you have to break open all these barriers. You have to break the cytoplasmic membrane, the cell wall, so that the cellular components are released and they come out of the cell. So to break open the cells, we can use physical methods in which the cells are disrupted by mechanical forces. Or to break open the cell, we can use chemical methods where cell lysis is done by exposing the bacterial cells to certain chemical agents. So chemical method or physical method can be used to break the bacterial cells. Okay, now when you are preparing pure sample of DNA, chemical methods are generally preferred to break the cell wall and cell membrane. So to break the cell, we use generally chemicals. Now, chemical lysis involves one agent. Okay, in chemical analysis, generally we prefer using two or more chemicals. Why do we do that? One chemical agent attacks the cell wall, okay, and another disrupts the cell membrane. So at a time, the two chemicals may act in different way. One may damage the cell wall and another may damage the cytoplasmic membrane and break the cell, and the cellular components will come out. Okay, now the choice of the chemical, what chemical you are using depends upon the species of the organism, right? If you are carrying out lysis of E. coli cells, it can be brought about by use of lysozyme or EDTA or both. Okay, what is EDTA? Ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid. Okay, or both. So you can use lysozyme or EDTA or both. What lysozyme? Where is lysozyme present? In the egg white. It is present in saliva, tears. What does lysozyme do? It breaks the cell wall. Okay, it attacks it digests or dissolves the polymeric compound that gives rigidity to the cell wall. That means it damages the cell wall. EDTA removes magnesium ions that are essential for integrity of cell envelope. So it inhibits the cellular enzymes and degrade the that can degrade the DNA. So EDTA and lysozyme, when used together, will break open the cell membrane and cell wall, right? Now, lysozyme or EDTA can burst the bacterial cell, but sometimes, usually we use detergents. Now, use of detergents, whether we are using strong anionic detergent or cationic detergent, depends upon what type of material we are preparing or what type of experimentation work we are doing. So, we can use various detergents also. For example, like sodium dodecyl sulfate, SDS, is also added sometimes. SDS helps in lysis of bacterial cell by removing the lipid molecules. Because it's a detergent, it removes the lipid molecules that are present in the cell wall, causing the disruption of cell wall as well and cell membrane also. It helps in disruption of cell membrane also. Now, so depending upon what type of bacteria you are using and what kind of DNA you are expecting, whether a polymeric DNA or what, we will be using certain chemicals. Okay, once the cell lysis is done, that means once the cell membrane and cell wall are broken, then what we get is a cellular extract. After cell lysis, insoluble cell debris are to be removed from the cell extract because it contains broken pieces of DNA, damaged cell wall, cell membrane, other cellular components are also present in the cell extract. So we have to remove the cell debris. So this partially digested cell wall fractions can be removed, can be pelleted by centrifugation, leaving behind a reasonably clear supernatant which is called as cell extract. Okay, so once lysis is done, centrifugation is done so that cell debris, undigested cellular fractions can be removed, and what we get is a clear supernatant which is called as cell extract. So what is present in the cell extract? The cell extract contains DNA, RNA and proteins. So how do we do that? Now, you have to disrupt the cell wall and disrupt the cell membrane. What kind of agents you can use? You can use detergents, you can use organic solvents, you can use various enzymes like lysozymes, you can heat also, EDTA, any detergent. Okay, then what you get is cell extract. Okay, What is cell extract? It contains all cell wall debris and all. Then DNA, RNA, proteins. Then it is centrifuged to remove the cell debris. So the cell debris are removed and you get a clear supernatant that is called as cell extract. Cell extract contains DNA, RNA and proteins. Now, from this cell extract, we have to purify the DNA. That is the third step, purification of DNA from a cell extract. The cell extract contains RNA, proteins in addition to DNA. These contaminants need to be removed so that we get pure DNA. How to remove these contaminants? The cell extract is first deproteinized. Remove the protein. How? By adding phenol alone, or you can add 1:1 concentration, a mixture of phenol and chloroform. So deproteinization, that means removal of proteins. Traditionally, actually, proteins were removed by adding phenol or 1:1 chloroform phenol mixture. What do these organic solvents do? They precipitate the proteins. Okay, when you add organic solvents to the cell extract, okay, what these organic solvents do, that precipitate the proteins. Okay, and the proteins, DNA and RNA is present in the aqueous solution. So once you add to the cell extract, when you add a mixture of phenol and chloroform and centrifuge it, what will happen? The aqueous layer and organic layer will be separate. In the aqueous layer are present the DNA and RNA, and at the interface of aqueous and organic layer, proteins get precipitated in the form of a layer. The cell extract along with the solvent is centrifuged when the precipitated proteins are left as white coagulated mass at the interface between aqueous and organic layer, and you remove the aqueous layer because in the aqueous layer are present the DNA and the RNA. So it's carefully collected. Nowadays, instead of adding phenol chloroform or phenol and chloroform, what they do is they add enzymes called as proteinase K. Nowadays, to remove the proteins, proteinase K enzyme is added and the proteins are removed again after centrifugation. So what we can do is removing proteins. How to remove the proteins? Add with phenol and then centrifuge. When you centrifuge, you can see there is an aqueous layer at the top, okay, which contains DNA and RNA. Then the coagulated proteins at the interface. This is phenol at the bottom. On the top layer is the DNA RNA mixture and proteins have coagulated at the interface. Okay. Now, you have to add RNase enzyme now. Now that RNA is present along with DNA, RNase enzyme is added to degrade the RNA in the aqueous layer. The aqueous layer containing the DNA and RNA is removed with a pipette. Some RNA molecule, especially mRNA, is removed by phenol treatment. But for effective removal of RNA, we have to add the enzyme RNase ribonuclease, which will rapidly degrade the RNA molecules into small subunits. Okay, small subunit, it will be degraded, but DNA will be retained in the form of a polymer. Now, we have to concentrate of the DNA sample, right? Now our aqueous layer contains broken pieces of RNA and intact DNA. So we have to concentrate the DNA. The most frequent method for concentration of DNA is ethanol precipitation method. Okay, so DNA is purified by ethanol precipitation method. So in presence of a monocationic salt like Na+, and at a temperature of -20 degrees or lower, absolute ethanol will efficiently precipitate out polymeric nucleic acid, that means DNA, leaving behind RNA. So it will precipitate. Ethanol precipitation method is to precipitate polymeric DNA molecule in cold condition at -20 degrees Celsius. If your sample contains thick concentrated DNA, if your sample contains too much of DNA, ethanol is layered at the top of the sample, causing the DNA molecules to precipitate at the interface. Okay, so when your DNA is present in a very high concentration, ethanol is layered at the top of the sample, causing the DNA molecules to precipitate at the interface. Okay, once the DNA molecules have precipitated at the interface, a glass rod is pushed through ethanol into DNA solution. Okay, we push a glass rod through ethanol into DNA solution. when you remove the glass rod, DNA molecules adhere to the glass rod and it can be pulled out of the solution in the form of a long fiber. Okay. So carefully, again, listen once again. If your sample contains concentrated DNA, any high concentration of DNA, you layer on the top layer, you pour a layer of ethanol. Right? What will happen then? The DNA molecule will get precipitated at the interface. Then you push a glass rod through the ethanol into the DNA solution and pull out the rod, remove the rod. Then DNA molecules will adhere and can be pulled out of the solution in the form of a long fiber. This is true when DNA is present in high concentration. Like you can see, two ways to concentrate the genomic DNA. In the first diagram, it is called as spooling of DNA molecule. It is called as spooling. So at the bottom of the tube, you can see concentrated DNA solution. Then there is a layer of ethanol. And now you put a glass rod inside and the DNA fibers have adhered to the glass rod and they can be spooled out. This is called as spooling. But if DNA is present in a low concentration, then 70% of ethanol in the final concentration is added and the solution is centrifuged so that DNA gets precipitated at the bottom by centrifugation and the top layer of ethanol can be decanted. Okay, if the DNA is present in low concentration, then ethanol is mixed with dilute solution of DNA. When you mix ethanol with dilute solution of DNA, the precipitate of DNA can be collected by centrifugation. Okay, so centrifuge, add ethanol, centrifuge, and the DNA molecules will get collected at the bottom of the tube. Then redissolve it in water. Remove the ethanol, redissolve it in water. Ethanol precipitation has an added advantage of leaving short chains and monomeric nucleic acid components in solution. Okay, when you carry out ethanol precipitation, small monomeric nucleic acid components, that means broken RNA molecules, are removed in the solution. Ribonucleotides that are produced by ribonuclease will therefore be lost in the stage. They are removed in the solution. And what settles down after centrifugation, what precipitates after centrifugation, is the pure DNA. Thus, pure samples of DNA can be obtained from bacterial cells and the final step is ethanol precipitation method. So there are 4 basic steps. Number 1, growing and harvesting the cell. Then breaking open the cells to prepare cell extract. Okay, purification of the cell extract to remove the proteins and RNA. And finally, concentration of DNA. Now, if you want to prepare plant DNA, if you want to prepare plant cell DNA, then we require certain strong treatments, like say strong cationic detergents can be used. If you want to prepare total cell DNA from organisms other than bacteria, then when total cell and pure DNA samples from plant and animals, not bacteria, are required, the basic steps are similar, but there certain modifications are needed. Okay. So when you isolate plant cell DNA or animal cell DNA, some modifications are required. Growing the cell, harvesting the cell and all. When you are disrupting the cells to prepare the cellular extract, some modifications are needed. What are the major modifications needed? Chemicals required for disruption of cell wall, cell membrane and all. For example, lysozyme has no effect on plant cell wall. Here, specific degradative enzymes are used, or more efficiently, the plant material is frozen and it is ground in a mortar and pestle along with, say, sometimes acetone or some other chemical. So we need not be using lysozyme for breaking open the plant cells because it is ineffective. Okay. And now animal cells don't have cell wall, they have cell membrane. So they can be lysed simply by treating them with detergents because there is no cell wall. So rest of the major steps are same, but slight modification is needed to damage the animal or plant cell so that we get the pure DNA. Okay. So that is all about preparation of pure DNA, pure genomic DNA, okay, which is required in genetic engineering experiments when we want to clone certain specific genes that are present in the DNA. And in the next lecture, we'll discuss about purification of plasmid DNA.